Hello, YouTube. It's like a weird light coming in. Oh, well. Okay, just waiting for TikTok to turn up. That's where my audience really is. So, hello, Miss Trista Ann. I don't recognize that name. Are you new? Courtney, you've been here. Nikki Rosegold. Rain. One of my kids had a teacher named Storm Shaw. Her name was Storm, and her kids were named after weather too. I don't know what they were. I think it was, I can't remember. I know I said it wrong. I actually got in touch with her a couple of years ago, and but yeah, I can't remember her kids' names. But yeah, they were all named after weather. It was really cute. Okay, so I'm just waiting. I'd like to know where you're from while we're waiting. I'm in Vancouver, and I just got back from the gym. That's why I'm all gross looking, but hair all slicked back. At the gym, I was really stupid. I forgot to put my sunglasses in the locker, and I put them in here, and I was doing an exercise, and they just about lost them down there. So first time I ever did that. Redlands, California. Redlands, California. I don't think I've been. I know I've looked that up before. I'm going to look it up again, though. Redlands, California. Redlands, California. Where is that? I'm always interested to hear where people are from. Hi, Mandy. I'm great. How are you? Redlands. Oh, right. I've looked that up a few times now. Near San Bernardino, near there. Nice weather down there. Southern. Yeah. Just looking it up now. It's just taking a minute. When I'm doing a live, my computer's really slow. So just everything takes forever. California is such a huge state. Okay, Saskatchewan. Hi, my dad was born in Saskatoon and grew up on a farm there back in the day. He was born in 1922. He passed away a long time ago. And he had an outhouse. And during snowstorms, I'm sure you're used to this. I've told this story a million times. Every time someone from Saskatchewan comes on here, and they used to have to tie a rope around their waist just to go to the bathroom because they might get lost in the snowstorm. Wow, eh? I don't know. They must have had potties too in the house or something with little kids. How on earth would you do that? And I'd be afraid of dropping one down the outhouse. The kid, not the potty. Southern, right? Okay, Saskatchewan. And I live in that city also. Okay, we got enough people. If you go in the link above, if you're interested, you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that behavior board too. That's what makes it work. So, because you got to give respect to get it. Something came up yesterday, and I thought, how am I going to put this in a? I didn't actually do it yet. Where did I put that? Oh, here we go. It came up last night in a live, and it threw me off. It was a question. It wasn't a question. Someone was just saying all kids are going to push boundaries. And the comment was that all kids, where was it? All kids will test boundaries. Or is testing boundaries normal? If you're a leader, no. Why would they test it if they know that it's not going to be moved? Like, what I mean is, it would be like, it wouldn't make any sense. When you're a really good leader for your kids, they don't test the boundaries. Why would they? They're fair, reasonable boundaries, and they know that you know how to make them work. So it would be like if you knew you were going to get a speeding ticket every single time you sped, you would never speed, right? So you just sort of accept that fact and you just do the speed limit. That's what kids who have a really calm leader are like. They just understand the rules of the house and the boundaries because they're fair and reasonable, and they just follow them. There's no arguing. It would be like kids arguing when school starts. It wouldn't make any sense, would it? Well, I don't want it to start at 9. I want it to start at 9:17. That's not an argument they're going to win. There's a boundary. School's from 9 to 3 or whatever. So it's like that. So no, they don't all test boundaries. They don't need to. If you're a really good leader, they don't test your boundaries. Like my kids wouldn't, if my kids tried to test my boundaries and push me or something, I would have reacted like this, like, what? They would have gone, oops, sorry, mom, never mind. Like it just was easy. So yeah, they don't all test boundaries. They don't need to. Okay, thank you for showing up and giving free advice. I enjoy learning new things. Yeah, this is my free content, as is my behavior board. That's, if you just watch my TikTok and get my behavior board, a lot of parents get really good advice for free just doing that. So that's why I keep doing this, because most people aren't going to hire me. So, and I understand that. So this way I can help everybody, right? Okay. Mm. Tips on getting my toddler to eat independently. She's 2 and not eating at her daycare. Well, does she eat independently at home? Um, yeah, I don't know what you mean by eating independently. Kids don't generally need a lot of food. Toddlers, especially. Parents always think they need 4 times the amount of food that they actually do need. So, yeah, chances are that she's probably getting enough at daycare anyway. I'm just guessing, because often they come home from daycare ravenous because they've been doing other things. They're busy. So, but yeah, I don't quite know what to say. I don't know what you're feeding her and what she likes, what she doesn't like. Is she a fussy eater, and what she like at home? Does she eat independently at home? So I would get that fixed up at home. Um, and then it should usually just transfer over to the daycare, I'm guessing. Um, Oh God, perfect question. I'm scared to take the pacifier away from my 18-month-old. Any advice? My son was 18 months old, and that's when I took the passy away from him. Dummy soother, whatever you want to call it. The plug, mouth plug. Anyway, who was it? Someone had a really funny name for it the other day. Oh, anyway. What was it? Anyway, my son was 18 months old, and I decided I wanted to take it away. I had let him have it for that long because we did a big overseas trip we lived in Australia. Sorry, this light. We did a really big overseas trip to Canada to visit my family, and there's no way I was going to take that away for an airplane. A big, it was like a 24-hour trip. So anyway, we get home after this big trip, and we're back in Australia. And I just decided this is it. We were jet lagged and everything. And I said to him, okay, we're going to put all your dummies in this little plastic bag, and then we're going to throw it in the garbage because you're a big boy now, blah, blah, blah. You can't really reason with a toddler, but I was just like, I don't know what got over me. So we're going to put them away. And he held this plastic bag full of all the dummies. I picked them up, and he dropped them into the big wheelie bin outside. Now, he knew if Dad had done that, it might have been different, because he knew that Dad might have fished in that bin for him. He knew when Mom said something, it was probably going to happen. Like, he was sort of learning this even at that age with Mom. So I said, they're all gone. We closed the lid. Bye-bye. And that was it. Then the rest of the day, I was like this. I was terrified because he had tantrums. My daughter never did, but he had tantrums. So I thought, what kind of a day am I going to have? Like, I was just dreading it because I was already not hungover. I was already jet lagged. Anyway, and he never asked for them once, because he just saw them as gone. Every so often he'd go like this, and then he'd go to look over at me, and I'd instantly look away like I didn't notice. And he not once asked for a dummy. I was shocked at that. So now, is that the way you do it, and that's the way it's going to work? I would say I lucked out with that. I think that was just a total fluke. But yeah, give it a go. But it is like pulling off a Band-Aid. Don't just give it to them at bedtime. Just none. Have absolutely none. And make sure they throw them away, or they watch you throw it away, and it's somewhere where you can't retrieve it. Yeah, he knew when something went in that bin, it was going to stay there. But yeah, I was shocked at that. Okay. Does your advice change for children with ADHD? No, that's where I learned all this stuff. Leadership has to do with you. It's not the kids. The only exception I would say would be autism, or children with other disabilities and such. Not that autism is always a disability, but it's a bit more of a challenge. So, and it is a little bit different. But yeah, that's where I learned all this stuff. I learned all of it with those. My kids didn't have it, but I've worked with hundreds of kids, and they taught me all this. I learned through them. They all had, I used to call them alphabet kids. ADHD, WXYZ, whatever. They always had an alphabet after their name, because no one ever said to me, Lisa, here's an easy one. They always said, good luck with this one, Lisa, like little ones up to teenagers. So I always worked with kids with, challenges. It's all the same stuff. I don't know what you mean. So I'm trying to make sense out of your question. I can't quite get it. Okay, 16-month-old throws things when she's done with them instead of just putting them down. Kind of still a baby, but every time they throw something, say one word, say no, and then take something away. So if she's done with it, put it away somewhere but she might still want it if she sees you putting it away. So just say no. And it's consistent corrective actions with toddlers because they learn through repetition. They don't learn through words. You're not trying to reason with them. It's ridiculous. So you just say no, and then you put it away where she can still see it, because they might decide they want it if it's up on a shelf, but they don't get it back because they throw it. Every time you say no, no throwing, no throwing, that's it. Don't go on about it. That's all you have to say. But they learn through repetition. It won't take 10 times. It'll probably take 50 or 100 times. There you go. About the won't eat independently at daycare. Yeah, everything starts at home and it ends at home too, usually. She doesn't like sitting long periods, so I'm used to feeding her and need tips. Yeah, that's mealtime battle stuff. How old was she? I forgot. 2, I think you said. Anyway, yeah, mealtime battles. That's a whole other speech here. Actually, I'll do a video. I've probably got videos. If you look up mealtime on my TikTok, I'll make a note, mealtime battles. It's kind of a process. But yeah, I need to know the age too. It's a little bit different. Mealtime, okay, I know, mealtime battles with toddlers, and then another one with 3 and plus, 3 and over. Different, it's a different dynamic with that. Because you can start to reason with them when they're 3, and under that, no. Okay. 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 Appropriate way to handle 16-month-old that gets angry when trying to communicate, hitting, screaming. No, they don't get angry because they're not understood. They get angry when they don't get their own way. So it's not that they're trying to communicate because they don't care. At 16 months old, they don't care. They just care that they're getting their own way. They could care less if you understand them so long as they get their own way. So this 16-month-old gets angry when they don't get their own way. They'll learn. And if they're hitting and screaming and all that, just ignore it and restrain them if you need to, like pick them up on your hip, facing away from you, and just walk around as if you don't even notice they're there. So you're preventing them from getting violent. I actually have a whole course on that. It's one of my mini courses. And if you go in the link above there, it'll explain it all. Toddlers, those mini courses are all on toddlers right now. Yeah, it just explains why they do that. But yeah, kids could give a hoot if you understand them. They just want what they want, when they want, how they want it. I don't know what to do when my girls fight. Do I give consequences to both or just one? Generally, my TikTok answer on here is you separate them one at a time. Usually if they're both fighting over one thing, you say, I don't like your fighting, you come with me for 10 minutes. And you take the older one out first. And then you just go in the kitchen. You're not talking about what just happened. Don't go on about this stuff. I don't like that. It just doesn't work. So then you just in the kitchen, they have to sit there for 10 minutes, put a timer on, put them back together and say, okay, have fun. Don't say, don't fight again. That's ridiculous. So you just say, okay, have fun, put them back together. Second they start fighting again, bring the other one out. Go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Might take a whole weekend, but they'll eventually get the hint. She's 2 and 2 months. Which one was that? The one that won't feed herself, mealtime battles. Yeah, I will actually do a video on that. Toddlers not feeding themselves. But yeah, they have to sit still. I would have them in a high chair. I would have them restrained, like sitting, in a high chair or a chair. And every time they get up, they lose their food. Like they just say, that's it then. If you get up, it's all gone. And it's tricky, but no one ever likes that one. Certain things I teach that people don't like. That's one of them. But I know what works with kids, but it's not always what the parents want to do. The mealtime battles with toddlers, people never like it. But I'll do a video on that. I just don't feel like getting people fighting with me right now. I'm just tired. What about the solution of being obsessed with iPad? Well, you can't stop someone from being obsessed with something, but you can give them, like a management system. Anyway, there's 3 different ways of managing screen time, but you can't stop an obsession, by the way. So let's forget about that. But you can limit the amount of time they're on it. So there's 3 different ways of dealing with media management systems. 2 of them I don't really like. One I love. I'll tell you the first 2. The first one is when you limit the time. They're allowed to be on every single night from 7 to 8. So it's a specific time every single day. The other method is they can have 1 hour a day, whenever that is. The one I like is when you say, okay, you got 10 hours a week, or it could be 5 or 20, I don't know, but I'm just using that as an example. So you got 10 hours a week. I'm going to put all the minutes up here in a graph, and I'm going to check them off as you use them throughout the week. So on Monday, you get like 600 minutes, okay? And they decide when they're going to use them. So long as it's appropriate in the family life. Like they can't get up at 2 in the morning and do it, but you know what I mean. So then they use up their hours, and when they're gone, and that's it. And good luck with that, because that can cause some real scenes. Never be afraid of a scene, and behind every scene is a lesson. The bigger the scene, the bigger the lesson. If you're afraid of their scenes, they're in charge, and they know it, okay? So yeah, I would say, okay, here's our new system. You can only do this with 3 and above, okay? Under 3, they don't get that. But 3 and above, they can understand that system. But you got to keep reiterating it, keep showing, well, look, you've used up half of it. You've only got 5 more days. I'd put all the days out and get a real good chart going so they start to understand this stuff. It usually would be 5 and over, but you can start that at 3. How to help my toddler eat different foods. Good luck with that. I had fussy kids. Especially my son, I just knew what he liked, and I'm really into health food. We didn't have any junk food in the house. Like there was no candy or chips in our house. And so he had a choice. You can have this healthy food or that healthy food. That was the only choice he had. But I did definitely cater to taste buds, because I can remember not liking certain things. I was not a fussy kid at all, but I didn't like onions, mushrooms, and olives. I would eat them if they were in front of me maybe, but I didn't like them. But mom would just make sure that my dish didn't have any of those things in them when I was little. So yeah, I catered to my kids' taste buds. And that's a bit controversial. Like what I mean is not controversial, but it's a gray area. That was just my style. And I'm not a nutritionist or anything. Try and get them involved in the cooking. Try and make the food look good. So yeah. Sorry, my daughter just texted me. Because I'm not answering, she'll come in the live right now probably. Okay. Not that she wants to watch it, she just wants to see why I'm not answering. No meat whatsoever. Yeah. I don't really want to comment on that because I'm not a nutritionist. Now you're asking me about specific things. Plus, I'm vegan. So, I'm not pro-vegan though. It just works for me. But I wasn't vegan when I had little kids. But yeah, I can't really comment on that because that's more of a nutrition thing. And I stay in my lane. I'm parent-child relationships. That's all I do. How do you feel about gentle parenting? I stay in my own lane. I don't know anything about it. And, if I did, I wouldn't critique it anyway. I have a lot of opinions on methods that are really common right now, but I have never studied any other method. I only teach what kids taught me. I'm taught from kids. I've never followed another method. I've never read a book on parenting or kids. I don't know what anyone else out there is teaching. And I'm very, very guarded about that. Because if I am insulting something, I don't want to know who's teaching it, because then I would feel kind of trashy for doing that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't want to. And I think there's room for everyone out here. Like what I mean is, if other methods suit you, then follow those. If they're working, follow them. And if I just don't want to critique other methods, I just think that's kind of tacky. Yeah. It would be like, because I'm a gluten-free health food vegan, but I don't I don't care how you eat. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you do you. I'll do me, but I'm very strict in the way I manage my body, but I'm not going to critique how you manage yours. Like that's up to you. So it's kind of like that. I don't want to insult anyone. Okay. Huh? Oh, I don't understand that PPAW question. Okay. Do you know the success rate of those taking your courses? Only the ones who tell me, because not everyone talks to me about it. But yeah, what they all say is that talk to me. They've all said, oh, I get it. It's all about us. It's not the kids. They all get that. And the success rate, it's quite interesting, actually. I've only got one big course out there, and that's the 3 to 12-year-old one. Like if you have a 3 to 12-year-old, what's interesting is the results are a lot better than I expected. Because let's say coaching is always going to be the most intensive. But I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, you might get results. You can get 10 in coaching, but you might get 6 to 8 with the course because you're on your own, right? And I'm not, In the course, I'm not with you in that. So I'm not catering to your strengths and weaknesses. The course is just general. But I'm struggling with the teenage course because I can only get the results, I think, probably around 3 or 4, because I always say teenage stuff's always about one-on-one coaching because it's so personal, right? And but I would say compared to coaching, it's pretty darn close. More so than I expected. It's all paced out, and unless you've got some real, like you need one-on-one stuff, all the information's in there. Unless you're really struggling with personal stuff with all this and you need to be talked off a ledge, so to speak, that course is doing a lot. But it surprised me. So yeah, they say they're doing well, and it's just a matter of being consistent. It's like anything. You can get a really good diet, but if you don't do it, you're not going to lose any weight. It's like that. You got to follow through. The difference is losing weight is easy. Keeping it off is hard by comparison. It's not like that with parenting. Getting respect is really hard. Maintaining it's easy. Once you figure this out, it's easy to maintain because everything's cohesive. The kids and you all get along. There's none of this. So yeah. Okay. Tips on toddler attitude, like no, mommy, or why when asking to do something. So when you ask them to do something, they say no or why. Um, I don't know what you mean. You're asking a toddler to do something. Give me a specific situation of what you're asking them to do. Um, yeah, I need something a little bit more specific because I could go in a million different directions with that. Oh, told my 6-year-old not to use a permanent marker. She put it back, but then uses it 15 minutes later for example. She is starting to do small things like this. So she doesn't respect you. That's a tell for me. It just says she doesn't respect you. Work on your leadership skills. There's no way that she would do that if you were a leader. She just wouldn't. She would be embarrassed. They're embarrassed. And if you get disappointed in them, they get embarrassed when you're a really good leader because they want to please you. You're like a mentor. That you're someone that they kind of idolize you almost because she's only 6, right? They look up to you. They don't want to disappoint you. It would be embarrassing. They want to please you. So work on your leadership skills. That's all that says to me, is she doesn't respect you. So work on your leadership skills. It's never about the kids. It's about you. I teach parenting. I don't teach kidding or teenagering or toddlering. I teach parenting. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. And that's what someone asked about the success of the course. Everyone I've talked to who's done that course has said, oh, it's all about us. Yeah, it is. It is. Think about it this way. I've worked with hundreds of kids. I got all their respect. It had nothing to do with them. It's me. I know how to lead. So it's all about you, which is good news because you can only control yourself anyway. You can't control other people, but you can inspire them as a leader to make good choices. That's all we're doing here. We're not telling kids what to do. I never really told my kids what to do. I just inspired them to make good choices because they wanted to please me when they were little. And when they were teenagers, they wanted to please themselves. You want them to be more their own leaders and be proud of themselves and then not disappoint you. Your backup leader. My 3-year-old only listens if I'm yelling. Yeah, that's a temporary thing and it'll wear off and it'll backfire big time. Okay. So yeah, it's just something you're doing because you don't know what else to do. Use my behavior board. It's free. If you go up on the link above in my TikTok there, it's free and it's the behavior board and it will teaches you how to get organized with this. And you always put no yelling as your rule. If you yell, you always put no yelling. And then you'll see how it goes. And you have a consequence if you do yell. Kids love that. Okay. If I ask her not to touch something and pick up something she threw, correct. Why are you doing that with how old is she? I forgot how old she was. She was little, I think. I'm going back. You got cursive toddler. Okay, so she says no. You're asking too much of her. She throws something and you ask her to pick it up. I wouldn't do that. If she threw something, I pick it up and I put it on a shelf. I just take quick action. If she throws something, I say no, I pick it up, put it up somewhere she can see but can't touch. That's what I would do. I wouldn't expect her to do it. That's too much. It's too much. You're expecting her to clean up her own mess. She's 2. Pardon me. Just want to say thank you. Excellent. Well, thank you. I appreciate you turning up and supporting me. I appreciate that. How do you feel about trend of letting your kids do dangerous things carefully? Not my gut reaction is no, I don't know what you mean. You mean drive a car off a cliff but with a seatbelt on? I don't know what you mean. And is that a trend? So you're you're adding on and I'm losing track. Like if you add on to a question, I lose track. I have a hard time. I'm old, right? So I have a hard time going backwards on these things. I get nauseous. I get dizzy. Oh, you got a toddler who pinches. Yeah, they're going to do stuff like that. You just say no, and then you get up and walk out. Just walk away. Consistent corrective action. That's how toddlers learn. They don't learn through words, they learn through actions. So if there's a consistent corrective action, the fact that you're leaving and it's consistent, you got to do it every single time. Consistent corrective actions, not words, because they learn through repetition. She'll eventually learn, hey, wait a minute, if I pinch, I'm going to be all alone sitting here all the time. So, yeah. You're giving her too much credit. Like I just did a video on that. What did I call it? Bum, bum, bum. Oops, wrong. Oh. Never mind. It'll take me too long to find it. But I just did a video on that about the number one mistake I see parents of toddlers make, and it is that you try and reason with them. You don't do that. They try and make sense out of them. They don't make any sense. They have no sense yet. They're just forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. So yeah, check out that video. That's pretty much all I said. So I just repeated the whole video. And they learn through repetition, and you have to do it a lot, but you have to be consistent. If you forget one time, they're going to remember that. They won't remember the 99 times you did it right. They're going to remember the one thing you did wrong. I remember my son, he was a teenager, and he said, he's very good at remembering things I didn't do well. Remember that time you messed up with this and that? I said, what about all the trillions of things I did well? And he goes, what? Just love to talk about the times you messed up. Well, changing your tone. You said, I don't want to change my tone. You don't want to sound angry, but you want to sound serious. You say, no, like that. That's exactly what I do. I was a really loud, goofy mother. Goofy, really high pitched voice. But if my kids ever stepped a toe out of line, I went like this, excuse me? And they were like, oh, sorry, mom. I instantly went into mom mode. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm the fun, goofy friend, but if you're, disrespectful in any way, excuse me? My mom I don't remember exactly how she did it. It was a long time. Like I'm in my 60s now. It was a long time ago. But if I did something she didn't like, I would get this look from my mom because I had mom's look too. It's mom's look. But mom would say something like this. Are you kidding me with this? Like, like, never mind. I hated my mom's disappointment. I hated it. It was embarrassing. At the age of 3, how do you speak to them during a full-blown tantrum or meltdown? You don't speak to them. You completely ignore a tantrum. I have a million videos on that, and it's actually pinned to the top too. You'll see, and I have a whole bunch of stuff on tantrums. Just look up Bratbusters tantrums, and I will go on and on and on and on and on about why you ignore a tantrum. There's no freaking way I would look at a child or talk to them during a tantrum. No way, unless they're getting violent. And even then, I don't look at them or talk to them. I just restrain them while they're being violent. Like if they're hurting themselves, someone else, or damaging property, I restrain them. I don't look at them or talk to them. I ignore the crazy and I reward the calm. Should I tell the swing story? Is that a good one for that? Or the mall story? I've got a couple stories on why it's so important to ignore tantrums. I won't tell yet unless someone really wants to know. But yeah, you completely ignore tantrums. You are ignoring bad behavior. It's not even really bad behavior. You're ignoring crazy, okay? You're not ignoring the child and their feelings. If you have a child that's so sensitive, such a snowflake, that they don't feel loved when that's going to damage them if you ignore a tantrum, you got bigger fish to fry. You got the other stuff to worry about. Yeah, they can handle that. They learn very quickly, this ain't working. I may as well stop doing it. They will eventually learn. The better you get at ignoring tantrums, you're decreasing the duration, frequency, and intensity of tantrums. You'll see the difference. But they're going to get worse before they get better if they're used to you talking to them during a tantrum. So if they're used to pulling you into it, they're going to get worse before they get better. But it's worth ignoring. The mall story. Okay, I'll tell the mall story. Yeah, it's snowflakes. I'll tell the mall story. My son was 3, actually, when he had this. It was the second to last tantrum. He had another one about 3.5. He didn't have a lot of them, but he was very good at it. He was a bit of a professional. Anyway, we're in the mall, and it was a very loud, busy mall, so I didn't mind doing this in the mall. Normally, I'd take them somewhere like, where they weren't disturbing people. Anyway, he decided to have a tantrum. We weren't even talking. I hadn't said no to anything, nothing. He just, lost his nut and decided to have a tantrum. So I pulled him away from the stairs and put him up against a store windows where he was safe. Then I pulled out a nail file, and I'm just standing there waiting while he's tantruming. And he knew me by this stage. Anyway, I'm just filing my nails, and all these young moms were going past him. Oh, you should give him a hug. He's talk about his feelings. I'm like, oh God. And I'm like, keep going, keep going. But all these grandmothers and more experienced moms with older kids, they're the ones you want to listen to, by the way. And they're coming up to me saying, good on you. You know what you're doing. I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Like, I'd had tons of experience with kids. Anyway, he eventually didn't go for that long. He eventually got up, and I said, oh, you all done? Okay, let's get going. Like, I give that no attention before, during, or after. I never give a tantrum any attention at all. It's feeding it. Attention is food for a tantrum. And but yeah, that's not worthy of, And then when he's done, I wouldn't discuss it. There's no way. I think that's humiliating, actually. So as soon as he was finished having a tantrum, oh, you all done? Okay, let's get going. We just walked home, walked to the car. No big deal. It was all over. No big deal. But if you have a manager that has tantrums, good luck with that. Yeah. Oh, it's a good question. What about when they keep saying no, but I don't have time to wait? Shoes on, leave for school, etc. Yeah. Um, that's a tough one. But what I do is I say, okay, we're going to be going soon. And then if they haven't got their shoes on or anything, I get physical. What I mean by that is I pick them up, pick up their shoes, I put them in the car, strap them in, then I put their shoes on, kicking and screaming. But I never repeat myself. I just say, okay, we're going now. Let's get going. And if they're not ready, they already know the drill, though. They already know. Because it depends on the age. If they're 3 and over, I'd say if you're not ready for school, I'll just have to pack you in the car on ready. So you get physical, but not you're not hitting them or anything, but you're just physically picking them up, putting them in the car, kicking and screaming, put their shoes on. They will soon learn that when you say something's going to happen, it's going to happen. If I said we're leaving for school now, we're leaving for school now. Whether or not I have to put you in the car, you're going to walk in the car on your own. You see what I mean? Just take charge. You got to psych up for that, though. Like when I said something's happening, my kids just knew something. Like there was no arguing. It was just we're leaving and that's it. Or else mom's going to throw you over her shoulder and you're going to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, what if a tantrum grows in intensity? So that's none of your business. That's their business. They're going to have to learn to self regulate. You cannot help someone self regulate because that's not self regulating. It doesn't make any sense at all. So, yeah, of course it's going to grow in intensity only because you have fed it before. They know that. And they know that if they keep pushing, you're going to give it some attention. They might even get their own way. If they keep pushing, you might even give in. That's what that says to me. So, yeah. Well, what do I do if my toddler is hitting the new baby in the home? Keep them separate. You cannot explain to a toddler what a new baby is going to do to their life. It's ridiculous. They don't understand that. Just keep them separate. I had a friend, both our little boys, we were like playmate friends with their little boys, and they were both 2 years old, very passive, sweet little boys, both our kids. They weren't the least bit aggressive. So we were shocked at this. She had a new baby, this gorgeous little baby girl, and her little boy behind her back picked up that baby out of the bassinet and threw it on the floor. So he was a very gentle little boy, but he was like, you know what? This thing's been around for a few days now. I'm sick of it. So yeah, just keep that baby safe. Do not let the toddler near it. They'll eventually get bored with, they'll get used to it. They'll get bored with being mad at the toddler. But it's so funny. Whenever I see someone, oh, you should see such a wonderful big brother. You should see him in the hospital holding his little sister. I'm like, yeah, wait till he gets home. They don't all do that. But oftentimes it's a little kid I know, and I know darn well what's going to happen when they get that baby home. Oh, look, he's just so loving in the hospital. He has no concept of how his life's going to change. He's 2. Oh, goodness. Oh, you must be new, Melody. And you'll know why in a second. 16-month-old twins. And my regulars are reading this now going, oh, I know exactly what she's going to say. 16-month-old twins, when they're told no, do you just remove them from that or timeout? I hate timeout. Can't stand it. I think it's horrible. So yeah, I never do timeout. So twins, okay. 16-month-old twins, when they're told no, do you just remove them from that? Yeah, it's consistent corrective action. Timeout is not a good thing to do at all. I won't go on about it. I usually do, but I won't. I'll spare you. But yeah, consistent corrective action. When you say no, and then you make sure that you remove them or the situation or the toy or whatever it is. Do you know what I did to make my life really easy with toddlers? Because they're my least favorite age. They're all feet, no brains. And they're very physical. And I just found it exhausting because I have a really bad back. So picking up a 2-year-old all the time is really hard. So what I did was I completely child-proofed the whole house. Like there was nothing below the waist. And there was no toilet brush they could get into or anything, nothing. They never had access to the bathroom or kitchen cupboards or anything. And plus, I did a toy rotation system, so they were never bored. I was rotating all their toys all the time. So it was like fun, you know. Every few days, I'd rotate and get new toys out. And so I'd rotate everything. So I made my life as easy as possible. I never had to say no to them because there was nothing to get into. Oh, Dangerous Things Carefully by Joan. Well, I've never read any other parenting things, so I don't know what people are teaching out there. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I'm a safety net. So no, I didn't. They eventually learn. I would rather them learn by the time they're able to do it. So I err on the side of safety. Absolutely. Years and years ago, I don't know who it is, but it was someone that I knew, and she had written a book on parenting, and she was telling me about it. And anyway, she had said by the time they're 5, they're old enough to go and wait at a bus stop. And this wasn't even a school bus stop. This was a normal bus stop. By the age of 5, they're old enough to be independent enough to go and wait at the bus stop and catch the bus to school. I was horrified. A 5-year-old going to a public bus stop all by themselves. You can't even see them. And they get on a public bus and they take themselves to school. I thought that was the stupidest thing I ever heard. So anyway, I never told her that, but I felt I just, this is stupid. Anyway, what point was she? What's the point? I just didn't understand that. What's the point in that? I had other ways of toughening my kids up. I never tried to make life easy for them. Like what I mean by that is if they joined something and I'd paid for it, I made them keep going and finish it. If they got a teacher they didn't like, I wouldn't have tried to get them out of that class. If they were being bullied, I taught them to they never were bullied, but if kids were mean, I taught them how to handle bullies. So I never tried to protect them with that kind of stuff. But when it comes to like doing dangerous things, like I wouldn't have let them use a chainsaw carefully. You know what I mean? Is the transition to 3 difficult since you start letting them self-regulate more and reason more? Reason? I don't know what you mean. If you're a leader, at 3 years old, if you haven't been a leader and they know it, if you're not a leader, they know it. At 3, they often find their power and they get difficult. A lot of people say, you know, the toddler years were physically difficult, but easier. But at 3, that was when they say it's just like a switch flip. And I said, yeah, they're starting to figure stuff out and manipulate and they find their power. But if you're a leader, they don't do that. So there's no reason to. You said, okay. Speaking of toy rotation with a toddler, what advice can you give me when it comes to your day to day with them? I feel the need to be constantly entertaining them. Yeah, I didn't do that. My daughter was more, she wanted to be with me all the time, but I didn't have to entertain her. She was just like, you know, glue on me. But my son was very good at entertaining himself. They were very different. But she would just always want to be with me all the time. She'd just be looking at me. Anyway, it's not like she was demanding. She was just always there. Like I couldn't get rid of her. But what I would do is I would go and start things with her. Then I'd say, okay, I'll be back. I'm going to go do that. And then I just didn't go back for a long time. I never said when I was going to be back. Yeah, I started stuff and then walked away. But I had a lot of new stuff going on. Like I was always rotating stuff around. So But yeah, I'd get them started and then I'd walk away. Besides, they're little. Everything's such a quick stage with toddlers. Parents are trying to figure them out all the time. Don't bother. They're just going to go through one stage after the other. And but yeah, it's just everything. You just think you got them figured out, and then they change again. Teenagers are like that too. Toddlers are my least favorite age. Teenagers are my favorite age. They're both difficult, but the toddler one, because I have such a bad back, the toddler ones were really physically demanding on my back. And the teens, but yeah, that was my favorite age. Yeah, I want them to respect me. Yeah, I know where you're going with this, and I get it. I want them to respect me and know I'm there for them, but is it necessary to keep them busy all day? When they're really little, it's harder because they're going to be coming at you. So, but don't have the guilt that you have to keep them entertained all day. It's okay for children to learn how to be bored and to wander off and find their own things. Like you don't have to be the like it's not like a mini Club Med where you have to be entertaining them all the time and juggling and doing magic tricks. No. So I used to say, okay, here you go. I'm going to go do that. I'll be back later or whatever. But like I said, I still was very big on separating and saying, I'm going to do this now. My mom used to say, you're going to have to scram so I can get this done. So that was her word. You're going to have to scram so I would still watch her usually, but I wouldn't ask her to entertain me. I can remember it's just a memory, super vivid. We had like a nook in the kitchen when my mom loved to cook and bake. She was brilliant at it, loved it. And so she got me an easy bake oven. So she would be making all these pies and dough, and then she'd give me, oh, this is actually a really cute story. I wasn't going to tell this, but it's such a cute story. I'm going to tell you anyway. I just feel like saying it again. So my dad would be at work and mom would be baking like the pie for dessert. She loved all that stuff. So, and then I would have the easy bake oven. So she'd give me some dough to work with and I'd bake a little pie in the easy bake oven. Well, of course, by the time I finished with it, it was hard as a rock, right? And I'd bake it up and be all burnt on the outside and raw on the inside. So my dad would come home and there would be my little pie that was hard and it was gross and mom's gorgeous pie. And my dad, it was just this thing we did. I was probably about 3, maybe a little bit older because it was easy bake oven. It was still kind of hot with the light bulb in there and actually cooked things. It was amazing. So anyway, dad would come home and he'd go, Lillian, to my mom, he says, your pie looks absolutely fabulous. I'm going to have to try some of that. So he'd take a fork and he'd take him and he goes, Lillian, that's the best pie I've ever had in my whole life. And then I'd go, Daddy, I made a pie too. And he'd go, oh, Lil, yours was great, but wow, look at this masterpiece that Lisa made. And I'd be all proud, this disgusting burnt little pie. He'd take a bite and he'd go, oh, wow, wow. Lil, yours was great, but nothing compared to this. And I was all proud and everything. But I knew he was lying to me, but I still gobbled it up like crazy. I don't know why that stuck out in my mind. But yeah, mom was very good she was busy doing stuff. So she wasn't entertaining me, but she made me part of it. Does that make any sense? So how was I proud of that horrible little burnt pie? Awful. But that's what parents do. I was very lucky. I was, I was never yelled at. They were very patient, loving parents. Okay, I'm dreading the teen years. It was my favorite. Everything I do in my business, I'm always working backwards. My specialty was teenagers. That's how I got my business started because I used to mentor troubled teens, and they're the ones who said, Lisa, you got to teach this stuff because no one had ever talked to them like I had. And, I got really close to them. And so I always am working backwards for you. I would never take parenting advice from someone who hasn't finished the job. You have to have experience with teenagers and have had to have lived with them and raised your own teenagers. Also, my kids were easy because I got respect when they were little, so I kind of sailed right through the teen years. But I've worked with hundreds of kids. So make sure if you're going to take parenting advice from someone, make sure they finish the job with their own kids and they've had experience with hundreds of other kids because it is heavily experience based. And you have to have seen it all, right? And dealt with it all. So yeah, the teen years, I really enjoyed it. But if you haven't got respect when they're teenagers, it is hard to get. Getting respect with teenagers is very, very challenging. It's my favorite thing, though. So I love that because when I see the results with clients, that's the most rewarding. Is the parents of teenagers. It's hard though. It's really hard. I would say it's more dealing with the parents' pain and guilt and emotions than it is anything else with parents of teenagers they're struggling with. But yeah, you can sail right through it too if you set yourself up for it. That's why it's important to get this leadership role kind of cemented when they're little, and then you'll sail right through the teen years. The two most important parenting skills with teenagers, number one is listening. You listen to understand and show empathy, and then you stop talking. Don't give advice. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. They're going to shut you out, guaranteed. That's number one. Number two is negotiating. An example would be, hey, I know you're going to a party tonight. Can you come home by 11? No, I was thinking more like 1. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's make it midnight. How's that? Negotiate. So give them a say in how their life goes. Oh, is 7 too late to get respect? Well, I work with parents with teenagers, and they can get respect. So 7 is just tiny. How do you become a leader with your toddler? You're very consistent. You don't yell. Yelling completely eliminates any hope of getting respect. But you're very consistent, and you're very no. And then you say it every single time they do something you don't like. You correct it like that, no. And then you have a corrective action. And they'll eventually learn that, hey, they just kind of learn because they look at you differently from the parent that they can get away with stuff. They just do. And you don't have to both be leaders, but you have to back each other up. You have to have each other's back as parents. But there's usually one strong leader in the family. Mine was my mom, and I was the leader too. But yeah, there's usually just need one. But yeah, they learn. They're watching. They're not listening to you. They're watching. And they know if you're really consistent. Plus, you got to be fun. If you're fun, they want to please you. Not at 2, but as they get older, they'll want to please you. They would be embarrassed to be cheeky with you when they get older. It would be embarrassing because they look up to you, right? Okay, actually, I have to get going. I got some stuff to do tonight. Anyway, if you go in my link up there, there's everything there that I've got to offer. You can buy one of my courses, download my free behavior board, or hire me for coaching. It's in the link above there. On the behavior board, what makes it different is that you're on there too. That's what some parents don't want to be on that behavior board. And I say, that's fine. Don't be on it then. But one parent has to be for sure. But sometimes one parent doesn't want to be on it. And then they realize, hey, wait, I'm not getting respect. Because that's how you get it. You get on that behavior board. That's how you learn how to do that. But anyway, okay, I got to go. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back again tomorrow. Okay, bye now.